All right, guys. Our next guest is an MMA legend. We've had him on the show previously a number of times. He's a legend in the UFC, a legend in Pride, one of the toughest SOBs to ever step foot in an octagon or a cage of any type. And he also arguably has the best mustache in the sport. We have none other than Don Frye on Submission Radio. Don, it's so good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's always good to have you, isn't it? It's the brightest part of your day.
The pleasure is definitely all ours. You know, Don, you're a busy man in Hollywood, and we want to talk about some of your upcoming projects. You know, you're always doing a new movie or a show. One of your upcoming movies is called Chuck, Hank, and the San Diego Twins. You play a character called Diggsy. Now, Diggsy doesn't sound like the name of a typical Don Frye character. Tell us about the movie and about the role.
It's the movie is about two rival gangs, an older gang and the younger gang that has the town tore up, split up, and the younger gang's trying to take over the old troop. And, obviously I'm one of the older guys of the old gang and try to protect the territory. And we have a run at it. Obviously it's a lot of fun. It's a hell of a movie. You got David Arquette, you got Mike Frye. Mike was Eddie from Eddie and the Cruisers, and did a bunch of other things. And then Josh Barnett's in it, and shit, it's a good lineup. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. You're also in a film called Any Which Way They Come. This one, we believe, is still being filmed. How is the project going, and which way are they really coming from?
Brother, I don't know. Somebody dropped the ball on that one, and my scene got delayed to be reshot, and they never called me back. So
what?
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I got forgot or they just decided they didn't want to use me. But I'm sitting here all by myself.
Right, that one's banned. All the Submission Radio listeners not allowed to watch that movie.
That's disgraceful. Don,
lost the star, the best performance of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. We've been watching a lot of Entourage recently. I don't know how much of Entourage you watch. It's a great show. And Hollywood life seems pretty fun, from the parties, the groupies, the sweet catering, to the awesome trailers. What's one of the biggest perks for you being an actor?
Oh, heck. I get to hide from my wife. She's over there in Arizona. She's in Arizona and I'm here, and I have to disconnect the phone every now and then, but besides that, I'm safe.
Yeah, well, that's the secret to a happy marriage, a bit of distance. Now, speaking of old connections and old adversaries, Ken Shamrock, someone that you've obviously had a really good history with, has been in the news of late. What do you think about this fight that he's about to have with Kimbo Slice?
I think it's fantastic. I'm looking forward to it, I got a lot of respect for Ken. You can't fight somebody for 20 minutes and not bury the hatchet, or there's something wrong with you. And Ken and I had a hell of a fight a decade ago, and I've seen him several times since then. And we've talked, and I'm just getting myself in shape just in case Ken gets hurt and pulls out, and then I'll step in his place and fight Kimbo.
There you go. Wouldn't even miss a heartbeat. Just curious. We never did get your opinion. What do you think of Kimbo as a fighter? And him as an opponent for Ken Shamrock?
I think it'll be a great fight. I'm impressed with Kimbo. Kimbo hits hard, and seems to be a smart fighter. He's got a tough chin, and he's got a good right and a good left hook, and he's not afraid. Kimbo comes to fight, which is more than what you can say for 99% of the other fighters out there. Kimbo's a man.
Yeah, well, and he certainly has, that whole fan base that love watching his fights. Now, Ken was on our show last week, actually, and he was talking about bringing a bare knuckle boxing event to pay-per-view later on this year. What do you think about Ken fighting the undefeated bare knuckle boxer James Quinn in the pay-per-view?
Well, that'd be great, man. I'd pay to watch it, Ken's smart enough to fight bare knuckle. When you fight bare knuckle, it's a completely different fighting style than fighting with gloves. And that was my problem. I was never smart enough to fight without gloves, because I always hit hard. I broke my hands with gloves and without. So, Ken's smart enough to dial back ratchet back the pain. the power.
Yeah, certainly. And, you just mentioned how obviously you've had some bare knuckle experience. It certainly sounds like a sport that Don Frye would have been interested in back in his prime. Is that something that you think can grow into a sport? And is that a sport that you would have competed in if it was as big as MMA back in the day?
I don't know, because like I said, I'm not smart enough to hold back the power. You got to be able to gauge it. And I just hit too doggone hard. That's the problem. I got doubled up with the padding when I hit the bag. I'm just not a smart guy when it comes to throwing punches.
Now, you spoke to us last time about how disappointing it was, watching Stephan Bonner's fight with Tito Ortiz in the Bellator main event.
My God.
Now, I want to bring that up, but, given that you've got Ken Shamrock and Kimbo Slice in the main event, do you think there's any element of possibly making it a mistake, putting two guys who, may be a little bit out of their primes and may not be able to live up to the expectations of fans due to being a little bit older?
No, I think, Ken always brings it and Kimbo always brings it. And, those two guys are smart enough to know that potentially this could be the last fight. Back when I was fighting, every fight was potentially your last fight. So you always looked at it that way. And you went in there loaded for bear, and you left nothing. You left nothing in the ring or in the cage. So I think Kimbo and Ken are both smart enough to understand that.
Now, speaking of MMA legends such as yourself, Mark Coleman was recently in a bit of strife with an injury that he had with his hip. Obviously, you and Mark have a history there as well. What did you think when you saw Mark in the difficult position? Obviously, the fans helped him pay his surgery. Do you think legends like Mark, who have given so much to the UFC, deserve to have some kind of pension there for these kinds of occurrences where you need your surgeries and all the other things that come after fighting in the UFC?
God bless the fans, and I'm glad they stepped up and they took care of Mark. And it's nothing's owed to us. All right, we're adults. We read the contract. We knew what we were getting into. But for these dipshit promoters come along behind it and still use your fight films and use your name and your image to make money off of it and not give you a penny, that's a bunch of horseshit. That just shows what kind of a scumbag they are.
Let's talk about you, Don. Give us the update. How is your back feeling? You spoke last time about, having back surgeries and your disc protruding. How's the back feeling right now? Is it feeling any better? And does it allow you the opportunity to still get into the gym and train?
Yeah, Chet Congo showed up, and I've been working out over here at a gym in Calabasas. Chet Congo showed up with this machine that's called WinBack, WIN back, and it shoots electric current into your body. You lay on the negative side pad, and to ground you out, because sometimes you lifted it up a couple of times and the current's got a little strong. Kind of shocked me, I was like, man, I thought he was doing it on purpose because he's Muslim, He tortured me, asked me questions. And, I felt fantastic. I haven't felt this good in 15 freaking years, man. I got up, and everybody there, they said, shit, Don, we didn't know you were that tall. Because I could stand up straight. I was so happy with it, man. And right now, Chet Congo's number one person on my Christmas list or holiday list, whatever the heck the Muslims celebrate. I'll send him a card.
Well, that's a bit disappointing. Means we get pushed down the list even further.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is a question that fans are going to keep asking, and we're just going to ask it because they always send it in whenever you come on the show. Do you think there's any possibility you would ever step into a fight again in the future?
Well, yeah, that's what I said. I threw my hat in the ring. If Ken gets hurt and has to step out, then I'm here. I'll step in the cage to challenge Kimbo. I think it'd be a great fight, Kimbo and myself.
Well, hopefully Scott Coker's listening. You know, Don, we've spoken a lot about your historic career in our previous interviews with you last year. We wanted to ask you about your first UFC, though. You know, UFC 8, it was in Puerto Rico. You know, that must have been a pretty crazy experience having to go out in the country, you know, fight for the first time. Do you have any stories you can share from your time in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, you know, it was really upsetting because I just started dating. Well, I had dated Molly. I'd met her right before New Year's Eve over down there in Sierra Vista at the gym. And she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a fighter." She said, "You make any money doing that?" I said, "Oh, yeah." And I went off. I didn't because nobody was paying me at the time. You know, they all had short arms when it comes to pay. But I went off to Kellogg, Battle Creek, Michigan, in the Kellogg Arena, and I won a World Heavyweight Shoot Fighting Championship. And I came back, and I met her at the gym. I said, "Hey, aren't you asked how you did?" And she said, "What the hell did he do? Who is this guy?" Yeah, what the hell did he do? I said, "I won," you know. And, you know, so then we started dating, and I got to Puerto Rico, and I called up my parents. I said, "Hey, can you loan me $600 to bring this gal down to Puerto Rico?" And I decided to in love with her, man. I fell in love with her first thing. Still wait for her to have those same feelings for me, you know, after 20 years. Eventually, maybe. But she flew down there, and, you know, seeing that beautiful woman, bright yellow bikini, running up and down that beach is the best part of it. When I walked in there, and I walked in that hot, sweaty arena, man, it was just brutal. And I tell you what, boy, it had to be 125 degrees in there, 100% humidity. And it's sweating like a faggot eating a corn dog, you know? And, man, and when I knocked that guy out, I thought, man, I better get the hell out of here. Everybody be mad at me.
Well, now we know why you knocked him out in about, 20, 30 seconds. I'm just wondering, because the guy you fought, Thomas Ramirez, he was only 6'1", but he was like 400 pounds. That was obviously a UFC debut. What went through your mind when you saw this giant standing across from you?
Man, my ex-wife used to get on my ass about me and my get-rich-quick schemes. And I looked at that guy and I said, "Yeah, me and my wild-eyed get-rich-quick schemes really did it this time, you know." Big John McCarthy came over and said, "You got any questions?" I said, "Yeah, if I fall down, don't let that guy eat me."
Oh, man, what a classic moment in MMA history. Now, Don, we've missed seeing some of your Predators predictions. So back by popular demand, we've got a few fights that we'd like you to predict. The first one, Jon Jones versus the hard-hitting Anthony Rumble Johnson at UFC 187. Who do you think wins that fight?
You know, what UFC are we on right now? When is that fight?
UFC 187. So UFC 186 basically just happened over the weekend, and then UFC 187 is the next one. So I want to say, I don't have the dates in front of me, but I want to say July.
Well, you got to go with Jon Jones. I wonder if he's clean now. I mean, what do you do? Go do 2 hours in rehab and pull it out? Yeah. Heck, he got the fastest recovery of anybody I ever heard of. So, the thing with the UFC, they test these guys and they come back positive, and then they put the result on the shelf, for a month or two after the fight comes out, and then they decide they'll expose it, so it's just all going to depend on how he tests, and whether they're mad at him about the test.
Well, believe it or not, Chael Sonnen believes that the fight is not going to happen. So we'll see if it actually does, or if Chael Sonnen is just saying things to sort of get in the news. We've got another prediction for you.
Why does Chael think it's not going to happen?
I don't know. He did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and the fans asked him who he thought is going to win, and he said that fight is not going to happen. And then someone else asked him, again, and he just said, "Mark my words, that fight will not happen." But he didn't give a reason. He refused to. So either Chael knows something that we don't, or he's just saying things.
Yeah. Maybe John's in jail right now, huh?
Hey, well, it'd only be a one-day stint, so, it's probably all over.
Is Chael training step in the cage and take the place of the fighter.
Well, you never know. You never know. Let's get another prediction. You know, this is like the Ivan Drago versus Clint Eastwood of modern times. The Russian Sambo master Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone, also at UFC 187. Who do you think's going over?
Well, I gotta go with the Cowboy, partner. I gotta go with the Cowboy. Anybody who wears the hat almost as good as me, which Donald Cerrone pulls off, you know. I'm a fan of the Cowboy, and I think he's gonna ride in, and he's gonna drill that boy with some holes, you know, 45 holes. He's gonna ride out with the victory.
Now, the next one is obviously the champ that's been away for a while, Cain Velasquez, one of your fellow Pride veterans, Fabricio Werdum at UFC 188. Do you think Fabricio could beat Cain and become the new champion, or do you think Cain's going to defend his title finally?
Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to the Chael Sonnen answer, and I'm going to steal his quote. This fight's never going to happen, okay?
Wow.
Why?
Cain will get hurt between now and then. You know, Cain's not even good for 25 minutes a year. So he'll end up getting hurt between now and then. Trust me.
Well,
sorry to interject, Cass. What do you think of Cain Velasquez as a champion, Don? Obviously, you've been around some of the greats in MMA. What do you think about him as a champion?
Has he defended the title?
I believe once. Once or twice. If he does it 3 times, he'll break the record.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. So, who did he beat for it?
He beat Junior Dos Santos, and then he beat also Bigfoot Silva.
Okay. Who?
Bigfoot Silva.
Oh, Bigfoot. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Those are good fighters. Those guys are great fighters. You know, I gotta give him credit. You know, I mean, he won the title from that big fairy, that big blonde fairy, right? Pro wrestler. Whatever.
Yes, Brock Lesnar, the one. Yes.
Yeah, right. That's what that guy. That's not bragging, right? But yeah, to fight those two guys, they're good fighters. But I think he shot his wad. I hope he saved his money because I don't think he's done.
I hope to see Cain Velasquez back. I'm sure the fight will happen, Don. Another prediction. This one is probably one of the biggest fights of the year. Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor at UFC 189. I don't know if you've been following, all the crazy drama, but who do you think wins this one, Don?
I'm going to go with my fellow white man, Since everybody just white and black are racist today, I'm going to pull out my race card and go with the crazy Nick. He's in Jose Aldo's mind, and poor Jose doesn't know whether to shit or go blind.
Well, speaking of the guy, he's got a pretty exuberant personality. He's done some crazy things to build up his fight. Lots of trash talk, knocks guys out. What do you think of the guy? Do you enjoy watching Conor McGregor, and what do you think about his whole show, the whole Conor McGregor show?
Yeah, I think they used to have a reality TV show. Some guy would follow around that crazy actor. Who was it? That crazy actor with those big teeth. It was called I'm with Juicy.
Oh, yeah.
Gary Juicy.
Yeah.
That's pretty much just Cameron. So I'm with Conor. Conor's like Gary Busey, man. Jeez. You don't know where this guy's coming from.
Yeah, well, they both say a lot of entertaining things. Just another thing we wanted to get your thoughts on, Don. Last time we spoke to you, we got obviously some of your predictions for fights such as Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier and Anderson Silva versus Nick Diaz. Now, you predicted Nick to win the fight. That obviously didn't happen, but the thing that almost nobody else could have predicted was Anderson Silva testing positive for steroids. You spoke about the relationship you guys had in Pride, or just more the fact about how he was a nice guy, polite guy. What were your thoughts when you heard that Anderson Silva had tested positive for steroids?
You know what? Big deal. Obviously, he needed him to recover and help the recovery process. That is a major injury. Without those steroids, it would have been impossible to come back. Give the guy a break. He had a broken leg. He almost sent his foot flying off in the 5th row. Crime at it. He came back with something really nasty, so he used some steroids to help strengthen his body. It's something that needs to things and understand things through our research. We just say, oh, this is bad, so that's it. We this thing's evil. This is an evil milk carton, and this milk carton causes cancer, and it's all the milk carton's fault, and you're blaming an inanimate object, for evil actions, and crying. He needs it, give the guy a break. He's a world champion. He's one of the best fighters the planet's ever seen. And Nick Diaz didn't whine about it. Ask the opponent how they feel. I'll guarantee you, Nick Diaz doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. Now, it's certainly something that's a big hot topic with MMA fans right now. Speaking of hot topics with MMA fans, Don, we have some fan questions for you. The fans heard that you were coming on the show, and as always, we got a whole bunch of questions, but we only chose a few because we know you don't have much time. First question comes from username Armbar King. He goes, Don, you're a man's man, and a man such as yourself, have you ever been nervous before any one of your fights? And if so, which one?
That's a good question. I can't remember if I was. I can't remember. I'm sure I have, but I know I was. No, can't say I was. No.
Sorry. Okay,
sorry, disappoint you.
Guess that's a no. Got another question from Mustache Power. Mustache Power wants to know, Don, do you believe Brock Lesnar made the right decision recently when he retired from MMA and decided to stay in the WWE?
Yes, I do. And I congratulate Brock Lesnar for making the correct decision. And I will not say anything negative about the man anymore because he respected the part of my sport enough to stay out of it and see it as in his entertainment industry. So I think he did the correct decision.
Now, this next question comes from Rude Nick. He wants to know, Don, you've had a lot of finishes in your career. What did you enjoy more, submitting or knocking out your opponents out cold? And could you give me your favorite finish out of all of your fights?
I always like submitting people because, it's much more satisfying to have total domination over somebody and have to scream and yell uncle, rather than just knocking them out. You knock them out, it basically gives them the easy way out of the fight. But you submit somebody, they have to make a split-second decision that you're ultimately a better man than they are, and they have to sit there and grovel for submission. Grovel for you to release them so that they can live.
Now, Don, we've got one more fan question here. It comes from Eric Plasma for Life. He was going to ask you, last time you were on this program, you mentioned that CM Punk in the UFC was a pipe dream. Have you had any chance to think about it? And have you changed your thoughts now that it looks like he'll be debuting sort of soonish?
Who's he fight?
They still don't know yet. I think they're going to find him someone sort of on his level.
What is his level? Does anybody know?
Well, obviously he will be making his debut. He hasn't had any amateur fights, he hasn't had any pro fights. So this will be basically him training with guys like Ben Askren and the Grey Season, guys like that for the next year and probably early 2016. So his level we don't know yet. So
this is going to be just excitement extraordinaire, right?
Pretty much.
All he's bringing into the cage is a name, right? No skills.
That's what we know so far. Yeah. I don't know about his skills, but we know he's bringing his name.
Yeah, why don't you fight him? You got a good name, right? You've taken a couple jiu-jitsu classes, so you're on the same level. Why don't you get in there and fight him?
Yeah, I don't think I'm anywhere near as tough as CM Punk.
Yeah, sorry, our schedules are busy for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, my 2016 is full on Frye. It's all completely booked
I've got too much experience to step into the UFC compared to CM Punk. I think I'll go to a different company.
There you go.
All right,
how are we going to find somebody comparable, since we don't know anything about the skill level?
I don't know. I guess they're going to find a guy who, is low in fights, guy who has like a 1-0 record, 0-1 record.
They were going to get the guy that played the Green Power Ranger from the Power Rangers to fight him at one point.
Yeah.
That would be a classic. They would come in a suit and everything like that.
Be honest, you'd watch that fight, wouldn't you, Don?
Yeah, I would have to buy a front row seat to that one, you know. I'd mortgage my house, you know, sell my horse just to buy that ticket.
Not the horse, Don. All right, Don, we're gonna finish up.
Speaking of horses, my youngest daughter wants to come over to Australia because and go for a horse ride and take some horsemanship lessons. So anybody's over there, you know, looking to bring a broken up, good-looking fighter like me and a young daughter, I'll come over there and get some classes and swap stories and swap skills.
Yeah, sure, but there's a lot better things to do in Australia than horsemanship lessons. I don't know. I think you'd fall asleep during the horsemanship lessons, Don. But there's a lot better things to do in our country. You could do surfing. Surfing's good.
No way. I tell you what, I don't think there's anything more better than riding a horse. I love my horse.
All right, Don. Well, look, we're going to wrap up the interview with something that we like to call the Submission Radio Tap-Out Round. It's a round where we throw some fun questions at you and you answer with the first thing that comes to mind, sort of like word association, but better. So we'll kick it off. You ready, Don?
All right, fire away.
Okay. Don Frye is at a bar. What's his drink of choice, and what's a drink that a real man never orders from a bar?
My drink of choice is Coors beer, and man never drinks anything with fruit and a straw in it.
That's sound advice. Now, you mentioned your horse and how much you love your horse. Any more issues with the horse? Last time we spoke to you, you mentioned that he bucked you off.
No, I left there a week or so ago, and he lost his shoes the next day. So I got to go home and put shoes back on him. You know, so yeah, he must miss me. Take it, do stuff like that.
Now, Don, a big topic in MMA as of lately has been Ronda Rousey versus men. Most recently, she mentioned that she might be able to beat The Rock. What do you think of these statements?
Oh, my God. This is just so fucking stupid. You know? Why is she bitching about who's the woman fighter that she keeps complaining about?
Chris Cyborg.
Chris Cyborg.
Cyborg. Fight Cyborg. Otherwise, shut the hell up. I don't want to hear you say you can fight a man until you fight Cyborg, and don't insist that she gets drug tested for anything, and don't insist that she makes weight. Shut the hell up and fight the woman, and like a real fighter does. Don't worry about rules and this and that.
Well, you know what? While we're on the topic of Ronda, what did you think of her dominant victory over Kat Zingano? 14 seconds.
You know, I didn't see it. I left before that. And it sounded stupid, you know, for Kat to go in there and do that. But my judo sensei said, no, you got it all wrong. That girl's a fighter. She's tough. She came to fight. She just made a mistake. She says, you know, the interview, Rogan said something. She said, fuck, I lost. You know, what do you want me to say? He said, that girl's tough. You know, he says, he's impressed with her. So, you know, I think, you know, I could train her. My judo sensei, Steve, could train her to beat Ronda Rousey. You know, first off, you got this smart fight. Ronda's tough. So you got a smarter fight. You know, she's the world champion, and you can't go in there. You can't go in there and charge him. You can't charge the world champion, or you get knocked on the ground, or you get armbarred.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of emotion going into this one. Now, let's change topics for a sec, Don. You worked with Kurt Hennig in Japan. Kurt was a great pro wrestler and a legend. He also released a song called Rap is Crap, which was actually a chart topper for a while. What does Don Frye think of rap music?
I tell you what, I've still got that T-shirt of Kurt Hennig's. That is crap.
Wow,
that's my favorite T-shirt.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that you sort of. It doesn't matter how old and tattered it gets. You never throw away that T-shirt. We saw, Don, that you saw recently the movie American Sniper. Give us your official review of the movie.
That was the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. You know, it was a great story. Chris Kyle's my hero. He'll always be my hero. You know, Clint Eastwood is my hero. You know, he was the greatest actor. Now he's the greatest director. And Bradley Cooper did a fantastic job portraying Chris Kyle. And, you know, if you get a chance, go see that movie. When it comes out on DVD, you know, I'll be the first one in line to buy it. It was the greatest movie I ever saw in my life.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper, a fantastic actor with a lot of great movies. Excited to see that one, Don. Haven't seen it yet. Now, we've had a lot of listeners send in this.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, put everything else on hold and go see that movie.
Okay, well, after this, I'm gonna jump. At that opportunity. But before that, we've had listeners send in a whole bunch of questions, and we had to include this one in the tap out round because this question is this: for all the listeners, single listeners out there trying their luck on the scene, what's a pickup line that always works when approaching a woman for Don Frye?
Hey, I'm Don Frye. You want to fuck?
Yeah, I don't know how well that would work for us on the count that we're not Don Frye, but, you know, it's certainly one to try. Now, Don, one of the last questions. The Submission Radio marketing team, our marketing team, were told they had to play the role of your Hollywood agent and that they better do a job or Don Frye was going to kick their asses. So they came up with 3 possible starring roles for you in movies, or I believe in this case, television. So you got to choose your favorite, all right? You got to choose which role you'll be doing next. First one, Special Agent Hank Scotchfield in an episode of Law & Order SVU. You play the hard-nosed tough guy cop from the country, you solve 6 cases, and you show those sissies from the city how it's done. Alright. Second role, Randy Randerson in an episode of Frasier. You play Frasier Crane's new boss of the radio station, and are also his mentor psychologist. With your cut-to-the-chase facts and your gun-on-the-table attitude, you show these sissies from the city how it's done. Or... third role, Principal Julian Cumsworth in the hit TV show Glee. You play Principal whose wisdom is only exceeded by his ability to draw. You also use those drawing skills to connect with the kids, and through a series of interpretive dances, including a 5-minute medley of Pitbull's greatest hits, you change the school for the better and teach the kids the valuable life lessons while showing them how to appreciate the beauty within. Also, you show those sissies from the city how it's done. Which one do you choose, Don?
I'll take number 1. I'll take the cop show. Any opportunity to shoot a city slicker, I'm all for it.
That's it. Now, Don, we're going to wrap up with this question. You mentioned it at the start of the interview. If Ken Shamrock gets hurt, you'd be happy to jump into this fight with Kimbo. So give us your prediction. If Ken Shamrock does get hurt and you jump into this fight with Kimbo, how do you see the fight going?
Oh, man. I tell you what, I see the fans going crazy, a standing ovation, seeing the Don Frye return to the cage. You know, it'll be trumpets blaring, the angels coming down, floating above the cage. It'll be women crying, you know, soldiers saluting, and fireworks exploding without anybody lighting them, and, you know, dogs howling. And when I walk in there, Kimbo Slice will come in, and he'll slip in a puddle of piss when he looks across the corner of me, and it'll be the end of the fight.
That pretty much
He'll knock himself out when he falls down into the head.
The picture you've described, it reminds us of almost every Pride show, Don, and it brings back good memories. Guys, don't forget to check out Don Frye's Twitter, @DonFryFighter. As always, Don, it's been a pleasure, and just from the fans and ourselves, please do some more Predators predictions.
All right. I'm going to go over there and talk to Stuart Wilson right now. He's the producer. Go ahead, tell him to get after it. Get off his wallet.
Excellent. We'll be waiting. Don, as always, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. You enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, guys. Take care.